Happy Tuesday, everybody. We're going to do this intro seamless today. I'm not going to forget my name or anything wrong today. But happy Tuesday. This is Camille. This is also the Rig on Wheels show featuring MVT. I am your host. I'm Camille E. Gaines, also the CEO of Rig on Wheels. And of course, we got our favorite VP over there at MVT, our favorite VP of recruiting. Last week he wasn't here. We had our internal recruiter. He said that you were sunbathing. So no more having fun, no more sunbathing, no more vacations until 2025. We've decided.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time I took a vacation, and if I'm sunbathing, I'll be honest with you, my skin's awfully pasty looking.
Well, we all have our challenges. Maybe sunbathing just didn't, take. That's all. It just
Very
didn't.
good at it.
Yeah, that's all. It's not a big deal, but we know that we did miss you. But he held it down for you. We did go over a lot of our normal industry news, insights, hot jobs, and all that good stuff. We did have quite a few hot jobs. I was trying to get some secrets out of him. Um, I did not. He was good. He even talks about a lot of great stuff about the marketing and everything. He was go MVT all the way. So let's get started right now and make some history. Let's talk about
Yeah,
the freight market because I know
yeah.
you talk about it.
So I know the spot market last month, the ATA is reporting that it was down about 2.1% last month in the month of September. We continue to see that we're staying in purgatory here. We're just kind of riding things out till we get to the election. We have seen a resurgence of freight crossing the border, like we've talked about in the past. We would do about 450 to 500 loads a day that cross border between Laredo, El Paso primarily, and a little bit out of Nogales, Arizona. Freight continues to hold steady, but not really that good. It's an indication that there's still too much capacity on the road versus what's readily available on that end. The key here is, as a driver in this environment, you got to keep running. You cannot take extended periods off, especially as we go into the fourth quarter of the year. This is the time you make your money. Quarter four is, for most people, flatbed's a little bit different because of the nature of what they do. But if you're in the reefer or the dry van side, your money primarily, instead of being 25% for the quarter, it's closer probably to about 35% of your revenue for the year is going to be made in the months of October, November, and December. So if you have drivers that you're talking to or coworkers out there that go, I'm going to take a week of vacation or I'm going to relax a little bit, they're picking the wrong time to do it. They are literally leaving money on the table. Generally speaking, January, February also is a good time for vacations because you tend to get deals on vacations because you're going during off-peak seasons. So it's one of the things right now as we watch the spot market, though it is soft right now, it is picking up. It's showing signs of life that you would expect in quarter four of the year. You got to be running freight. Not the time to take a 3-day weekend, not the time to take a week off. As much as we want to spend time with friends and family, as drivers, as the profession that we got into, this is where you make your money. So you got to do what you can on that. With that said, do you want to talk about fuel?
Yeah, well, I want to talk about fuel. I want to do it with the diesel and the gas. I don't always talk about the gas folk, but I was like, well, what the heck, transport topics had it up there, so I'm gonna definitely talk about it. But diesel dropped almost 8 cents. It was 7.8 cents to 3.55 on average. So this decline comes after a consecutive increase of 10.5 cents. So that is you can take it, potato, potato, however you want to take that. But it is a reprieve a little bit. Um, but it is still down almost $1, 99.20 cents this time last year. So, as much as we want to talk about diesel being high, it is a dollar less than it was last year. Now, talking about gasoline. So, you do have like commercial folk that is out there moving cargo that pushes things on regular gas versus diesel. So I don't want to ignore you folk as well. So gasoline dropped 2.7 cents. So the average is 3.14, and that is 38.9 cents less than it was this time last year. So for gas folk, I know everybody wants to be excited about that. Not you, Pearson, because you have a diesel, everything.
Well, I have some gas there. I will tell you this on the gas side, it's one of the things that you can keep some perspective on. And there's a lot of people that do gas in our industry. You're absolutely right on that. The driveway drivers, a lot of the people that do Class B, as well as some other niches of the industry right now. I will tell anybody, though, it's a case of the haves versus have nots. If you look at one part of the country versus the other part of the country, one of the things that you can follow both gas and diesel prices would be gasbuddy.com. I believe they have a pretty good app.
Yeah.
Gas Buddy will generally show it, and it goes into the diesel prices here. We did see that reprieve. It's still way out of whack. I can tell you what did force fuel down was the fact that it didn't appear that we had the damage we thought we were going to have from the hurricanes, at least on the refineries, that is. The refineries didn't seem to get impacted by that. A lot of damage caused by the hurricanes, but the refineries seemed to make it out okay. So the market had been increasing, expecting more of a backlash from some of the natural events that took place over the last 2 to 3 weeks. That didn't take place. So we got that auto correction that you talked about with that said. It still wildly varies from location. Gulf Coast is sitting there at 320 a gallon. We always expect West Coast to be 421, 470 out in California. No surprises there. Still surprisingly high when you start getting into New England at 376, the Northeast at 382. Spot market going up to those parts of the country has not been good. So you're taking suppressed rates to high cost of fuel to pull out most likely empty or with some real cheap stuff coming out of the Northeast. So you see a lot of carriers and other people pulling capacity out of the Northeast. And with the strike not really materializing into a long term strike with the longshoremen, we just didn't have a whole lot of pushback here. I would anticipate that out of the next 2 to 3 weeks, you most likely see fuel go down. We will see how the market reacts. We have an election coming up, so we'll see how the market, both in terms of freight as well as fuel response, to that magical day, November 5th.
Let me tell you one thing that Josue and I both said. We cannot wait to November 6th. We are so tired of this cotton picking election and every talk about it and everything you turn on or don't turn on if you're on social media, your algorithms or whatever. We're just tired of everything about it. He said he can't even look at what is the Hispanic soap opera?
Telemundo,
Yeah, no, no, the
Univision.
the Hispanic soap operas,
Oh, there's a bunch of those.
the telenovela, whatever. He said Nate talking about it. I said, listen, I'm done with it myself. So we November 6th is what we're looking for. Definitely. I was talking to Nimra today, and she said don't call her until 2025. I was just like, oh, poor little baby. But what were you about to say, Pearson?
Oh, nothing. There's some other things going on. I know there's most rates for companies are down dramatically as far as what they're reporting in their company financials. The biggest thing right now is I can tell you it's a lot of companies just trying to get the heck out of 2024. The big thing right now is sticking to the fundamentals, and I know a lot of the people that we follow, some of what you've talked about in some columns that you've done as well, is really this comes down to survival and doing not necessarily the sexy thing, but doing the prudent thing, doing the smart thing. Like I said, not taking a 3-day week, not a week off, not excessive speeds, making sure that if your carrier compliance and regulatory responsibilities are being kept up to date. This is one of those years that you can't really afford to make a mistake. And a lot of the carriers I talk to right now will make a profit as long as there's not a claim. And all it takes is one claim in a single month to all of a sudden the month isn't profitable. And if a company is not profitable, this is a hard business to make money at. It's one loss after another, and a company can escalate into a problem very, very quickly. The biggest thing right now, we're also realistic about it as an industry. We're going to get back into the arms race for drivers. Drivers want to be, pardon the pun, in the driver's seat as far as jobs. In
Mhm.
order for that to take place, the freight has to match. I'm a big fan of drivers doing well for themselves and their families and making money. I want a company to be prudent, make sound business decisions. But if a driver wants to see increased wages over time, we got to have good freight, and you got to have companies make it to the finish line to get to that good freight. So I look at this as being 3 months of survival as we close out the year.
I 100% agree with you. And speaking of closing out and being smart about everything and not messing up with anything that can mess up your money, I want to break down the FMCSA's new rule that's coming out. And let me clear up some things, especially folk that are on the smaller carrier side, or some of the drivers that feel like this might be an attack to them. When they say a new rule, it's not really a new thing. It's mainly a new transparency where it is clearing the air so everybody will know what's going on. That's really what it is. Okay. So if you are a SAP driver that is not working through the process, that kind of is okay, because you're saying that you don't want to be in the trucking industry anymore, and you're not supposed to be driving anymore anyway. As soon as you drop dirty or you fail a pre-employment or a drug test or whatever with a trucking company, you're not supposed to be behind the wheel anyway. So what the FMCSA is doing is automatically downgrading your CDL. It's supposed to be putting you in a prohibited status in the clearinghouse. That's supposed to be happening automatically. The company is supposed, whatever company you failed with, is supposed to be putting that in there. And then DMVs is supposed to be downgrading your CDLs. That's where the new rule goes in effect. So what that does is bring transparency across the board, and that is to help all companies be aware that the driver isn't supposed to be driving. The only time that that makes it be an uncomfortable thing is if the driver was trying to fraudulently continue to drive, or if the company that was he was driving for was trying to continue to have the driver drive. If that makes sense. Did that make sense the way I explained it, Pearson?
Yep.
Okay. So the driver will not regain their CDL until they completed step 6, which is the return to duty process. That happens once the counselor is given the okay for that. Okay. And then the company is saying they're able to go to a company and complete that process. So it's up to the employer to do all of the checks to make sure that the driver is put in the status and of prohibited, and making sure that they check the clearinghouse as well. So those audits have to be done. Now, This is going to impact probably close to 200,000 drivers, because that is how many drivers have not even attempted to work themselves through the SAP program. Okay. There were so many drivers last year that they found that was still driving, even though that they weren't supposed to. So that's the reason why this new rule, or I like to say just a transparency rule, has been put into place. So the actionable steps that I wrote a fourth article that was published last week. Um, the actionable steps for any trucking company to do. Your megas and your mid-size. Remember, mid-size companies start at 700 in their fleet, and megas really are not having this issue. It's the smaller companies that are having the issue. So those are the companies that I'm really speaking to. Conduct a rigorous audit to fulfill your compliance gap. So internal audits is what you need to do to ensure that your records are up to date and free of any violation. Leverage your advanced technology. So invest in compliance management softwares, things like that. 10th Street is who I use, who MVT uses, actually who all of, except for one, uh, of our companies use. And so they have vendors that are compliance companies that can help you. Or if not, you can actually have different software yourself, and also modernize like driver training to help drivers understand different things. But basically, drivers don't do drugs. Also, don't take anybody's medication because you don't know what you're taking. Go back to what your mom said uh, when you were in high school. Don't leave your drink down at parties, things like that, because you can get a roofie in it. But a good plug to throw in here is I wrote a book called Competing with Giants. You can go to our website, Rig on Wheels, or also we in the YouTube link at the bottom in the details, I'll have a link down there where you can buy this. But in chapter 3, it talks about developing your value proposition uh, for your smaller fleets. And in there, I talk about investing in technology. And these different technologies is where you'll be able to have it where you can automatically know when certain things are up for your drivers. Okay, it's time for your driver to get a drug test. It's time for this to happen. It's time for that to happen. That helps you stay into compliance. So those are the things that the big boys like Mesilla Valley does to stay in compliance, where they're not going to fall in those compliance issues that'll take them off the road or mess up their scores that increase their insurance. So that's some of the issues that smaller companies have that increase their insurance and mess up their margins and things like that. That Pearson always say that our margin of profit is so small. And so times like these, we have to stay lean. So if you're out of compliance, that's not staying lean and it's not being smart. So it's all in that book for less than 20 bucks. It definitely will help you out. Read it, get it, and it talks about things like that. What were you about
I,
to listen?
I can't emphasize enough for a smaller carrier, automation is your friend. You will
Yeah.
not mentally be able to keep track of all these times, dates, locations, everything else. We already talked about it from an operational standpoint, but from a safety and compliance standpoint, you literally have to automate. If
Yeah.
you don't, once you start getting above 10 trucks, you can't keep track of all your driver stuff. And the driver's not going to necessarily do it for you. And I'm very realistic when I deal with a driver during the onboarding phase where we're trying to get everything lined up to create a DOT file.
Mm.
DQ file on a driver. The driver doesn't live in that world, so I have some patience with that driver because they don't have a reason to be that knowledgeable of it, especially if they're not in the job market very often. They kind of get a pass. You, as a small fleet owner, do not get a pass. You, as a small fleet owner, have taken on that responsibility that you'll be organized. And the difference now, like what's coming in November, is the systems now talk to each other. It's why if you've been on any type of flight in the last 5 years, you always see these little signs of talking about real ID. Because it used to be 20 years ago, I could get a speeding ticket in South Carolina. I could move to Colorado. The two state DMVs didn't talk, and I could get a license despite the fact South Carolina DQ'd me from driving because I didn't pay a ticket. That doesn't exist anymore, except for a couple states. One's Washington, the other one is a smaller state. And that's why you got to get real ID at the airport. But more and more of these systems now talk to each other. So all that's coming in November is the two systems are literally talking to each other. The way to protect yourself is be obsessive compulsive about making sure all this stuff is automated and the system's up there, and you get a reminder a month ahead of time. Hey, driver has a DOT medical due, driver has to get their CDL renewed, driver needs whatever the case may be. The more you can automate this and organize this, because you as a small fleet owner will not be able to do that. You mentally will not be able to remember this stuff. And all it takes is one. It takes one driver. They're on the clearinghouse. They now don't have an active CDL. They now have a catastrophic accident. The accident's bad enough as it is, but when you couple it with the stuff that you didn't take care of what you needed to from an administrative standpoint, it's how you see a financial hit become a catastrophic financial hit. You can't let
Absolutely.
that happen, and all it takes is one.
And the software now is not, a lot of times as small business owners, we assume that the software is so costly. But because these softwares have been out for so long and there's so much competition with it, it's not. I can guarantee you it's not that costly anymore. And then there's so many people that's begging for your business. You're able to find software that is within your budget.
Yep. There's no reason not to do it. I've heard the conspiracy theories. I don't want Big Brother in the truck. They've been in the truck with us since the 80s.
Yeah.
That's not going away.
If you have a phone, Brother is in your bedroom, just to let you know, because you have a telephone.
Yep.
So I just want to go ahead and let everyone know that.
We are in a heavily regulated industry. The only difference now is the different areas of responsibility are now communicating together. That's the only difference.
Yes, absolutely. So with saying that, I want to go ahead, go to commercial. But when we come back, I want to talk about the professional drivers, the professional carriers, and what the shippers or dedicated accounts are looking for. Because I have a friend that works at a chemical plant, and the stuff that he was talking to me about, and it was just funny, sad but funny. But it's literally, and he watches this show religiously. He acts like it's 60 Minutes. I'm so grateful for it. Kind of makes me teary-eyed. But he's like, if these drivers could really listen to this show, because he just doesn't understand why they don't understand the importance of it. So I do want to come back and talk about that. Or do you want to talk about hot jobs first?
No, let's talk about that. We got time. Let's talk about hot jobs after that.
Okay. All right, Vanna, take us to commercial. Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay. So, what Mike was talking about was okay, so he works at a chemical plant. And when the drivers, it was several things, but when the drivers get out, they're supposed to have on certain shoes. And certain areas they're not supposed to get out. But let's start this. When they get out, they're supposed to have certain shoes and they're supposed to have on a hard hat. Some don't have on the right shoes. Some get out in their flip flops. And then one driver, okay, so and let me just take you this one driver. He gets out in a cowboy hat instead of a hard hat. Now, mind you, these are drivers that make over six figures and they're home every day. And he said, "Are you riding do you ride horses?" And the guy was like, "No, I ride motorcycles." He thinking he's having a conversation with him about that. And he said, "Well, no, you at work right now, you know." He said, "Well, the other guy lets me, it's just no accountability. If Mike had told that particular company that his company, that the trucking company first would have lost the account. That's a very large account. Okay, one. Two, if Mike would have reported it to his trucking company, the guy would have lost his job. What can we do to help these drivers understand the importance of being a professional driver? Because that's not a one off situation. We're hearing things, we've heard things like this forever, but it's ridiculous.
Yeah, part of one of the things that we do with our orientation, and it can easily get overlooked, but we have a detailed list of things you should bring with you. We think about it from a number of standpoints. In the wintertime, how do you dress appropriately? What supplies do you bring on the road with you to survive? God forbid if something happens. When you interact with a customer, the big thing that we've gotten away from in this industry, and part of it is as an industry, freight will get really, really busy and we get very, very desperate for drivers and we essentially look the other way. And what ends up happening is this is cyclical. We have good times, we have bad times. During the bad times, the shippers have the upper hand. During the good times, the carriers have the upper hand. In any other business, your face of the company, your PR people, which the drivers for us are PR people, they are who the customer sees. Um, we got to keep in mind that we are the presentation of the company. So, as an example, I always give this quote here, and I always go like this: "It's the bone through the nose guy." Some people have a bone through their nose because it's part of their culture and it's where they were raised. They immigrated to the U.S., and that's okay.
Right,
Sometimes Steve from Chattanooga, Tennessee, has a bone through his nose.
right,
Steve's a freak. There's no
right,
reason for Steve to have the bone through his nose. It's not a cultural difference. Steve's messed up. And there's times where, as a company, we have to have that relationship just like we would with a dispatcher, a recruiter of, hey, dress professionally, you're at work here. Act professionally, you are at work here. We all see the YouTube videos or the things on Instagram or TikTok where a driver's dressed in drag, where someone's got high heels on, where someone's you want to dress for the job that you want. And it goes into that conversation of carriers need to have that honest discussion with drivers. This is a career choice. This is not your 90-day assignment. This is not what happens next. We are going to be working together for the next 5 to 10, possibly 20 years. If that's the case, how do you carry yourself professionally? What kind of boots do you need to have? Steel toed boots, depending on the niche of the industry that you're in. How do you dress? How do you talk to a customer? We focus a lot on how we talk to drivers, but as an industry, our challenges is we do a bad job of communicating with our customers. And then when we service an account well, but we lose the account, we act surprised by it. We
right,
can't be. Shippers right now are looking at a lot of things, and it's beyond just your on time delivery. Do they feel safe with you on the premises? Do they like how you carry yourself? Do they feel comfortable with you? half of this world, and we are in a relationship, this relationship business. Half of life is just, does somebody like you? Like literally, that's what it comes down to. It may not be officially be on paper, but I tell recruiters when they're recruiting truck drivers, before they buy into MVT, before they buy into the pay package, as long as it's competitive, a lot of times that Friday afternoon comes down, do I like you? Because if you don't make that decision. Customers are the exact same type of people.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, what happens when you find or hear about a driver going to a shipper or account and they are just doing the total opposite of
Oh,
what?
so
Mhm.
I can tell you, we work to hold our shippers as well as our drivers accountable. Because sometimes it's the shipper, sometimes we've had situations where it's the driver.
Right.
Part of what I tell a driver is the video cameras are your best friend. We have inward and outward facing cameras. A lot of times the shippers have cameras as well. We look at those because we want to know it and we want to hear feedback from a driver. What customer do you like? What customer do you not like? Why? Sometimes it's because we have unrealistic expectations of what's going on, and that's an educational thing for us as a company. The second part of that is it depends on the scenario. Sometimes it leads to a training opportunity. Sometimes it leads to a conversation with the shipper because the issue's on their end and they have somebody at the guard shack, as an example, that's a jerk. Sometimes it could be a number of scenarios. We generally look at it is A, is it an opportunity to train the customer? B, is it an opportunity to train the driver? Or C, is this a scenario we need to get out of? Now, I can tell you if you have a driver go into a complete mental breakdown at a customer, there's a time where you have to exit stage right.
Right.
This is not good for us. 9 times out of 10, that's not the case. 9 times out of 10, it's more of a training opportunity.
Mhm.
Rarely are you having that type of Jerry Springer type situation. Normally, it's an opportunity, be it apparel, behavior, dress, procedurally. And at that point, that's where that fleet manager strives hard to make sure that we work that driver into the professional that they need to be, as well as the fact in some cases we may be setting up the driver for failure too. One of the biggest things that happens at the shipper is miscommunication leads to the problem. The driver got the wrong dispatch. The shipper has different instructions once you get there versus what we told the driver. So a lot of times it's also an education process for us of, hey, it didn't go well, but we're part of the problem here.
Yeah, I would agree. So this probably situation that I was talking about because it's hazmat and things like that, he probably would have that was safety, so he would have lost his job. But I do understand like when it's apparel and all of those, like just a nuance type of is a let's retrain you. Bring you in, retrain you. If it's not an ongoing thing, then we can talk about it.
Yep.
If it's something that keeps happening, then it's you're not trying to change. So yeah, I agree with it totally. Okay, so I did want to just kind of bring that up because he mentioned it, and it's something that happens often. And he said I just can't understand why they keep doing this over and over. I think they have a carrier now that not going through it, but it's just something that just kept going on and on. And I said, I'm going to bring that up because it is stuff that we talk about quite often.
One of the things that we have to face in our industry is let me be honest, it is not hard to get a CDL.
That part. That's
To
what I.
be the bare bone minimum driver in this industry is not that hard. I would recommend to everybody there's the FMCSA handbook. It's a little green handbook.
Mhm.
Section 392 covers most everything to deal with recruiting and hiring truck drivers, excluding a couple pieces. I will tell you that as a driver, I'm not saying you should read all 400 pages. What I am saying, though, is Section 392 from a driver's perspective is very educational because you get to learn why carriers are asking some of the things that they're asking and why they have to do certain things. To meet the bare bone minimum of a quote unquote driver is not difficult.
Yeah.
To be a professional and experienced and seasoned driver on the road, that's the specialty of what we do for a living. That is the difference. getting your CDL, there's a lot of people that have a CDL as a hobby. They got it because they thought they could use it down the road, not
Right.
understanding how experience works. There's a out of the 3.5 million people that have a CDL, only about 2.1 do what it is that we do, full tractor trailer. And of that, actively driving is closer to about 1.2 to 1.5 million. Having a CDL is not an accomplishment. When you say I have a CDL, that does not garner my respect. When you are a professional on the road that takes care of the customers on time, that that gets my attention. That, is I believe in Django Unchained, where Leonardo DiCaprio said, "At first you had my attention, but now you have my interest."
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you there. So, and that's why I say everybody is just not cut out for it, type of deal. And there's definitely a difference between a driver and a professional driver. So
Yep.
there you go there. So it just is what it is. And then you have so many that just doesn't respect what it is they do. So there we go. That just probably answers all of it.
Yep.
But I think that just kind of sums up it all. And what I want to do is go to hot jobs. So we want to go to commercial and come back and go over all of the hot jobs. And hopefully we got some juicy stuff there. All right. Bye. Okay, guys, it's action time. We got hot jobs next. Pearson, what you got for us? I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Caleb, before you show anything on the screen, I do want to say I have two exclusive openings out of the Columbus, Ohio area.
Oh,
We have two XTD openings. These are the folks that generally start at during the evening times. Really cool job up there. We have two exclusive openings. Orientation would be in Nashville, but if you live within 50 miles of Groveport, Ohio, we're looking for XTD drivers. These are folks, it's a little bit like on time deliver or just in time freight. It's not quite the same way as automotive, but it's a job that will pay you 1,500 to 1,750 a week, home nightly. There's some weekend work involved here, generally speaking, on that end, but you are home nightly. Shift starts at 3 p.m. You end up getting off about 2, 3 in the morning. Really detailed, dedicated business that we have for an account up there in Groveport, Ohio. So it's a cool, dedicated account. You will not have slow times. You will always be busy on it. Two openings. The first two that end up getting qualified and being able to attend orientation in Nashville, we will fly you in, fly you back. There's two openings out of there. So when you talk to the folks at Rig on Wheels, let them know I'm interested in the XDT openings that you have in Columbus, Ohio, and they can also give you more details about the customer on the phone. 1,500 to 1,750 a week. Let's go
do
ahead.
they get a MVT hat?
Huh?
Do they get an MVT hat?
We don't have any on site, but no, probably not at this moment.
Okay, that's sad.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll look at that down the road. Uh,
Okay. All right.
as
I was just hoping you had some in Nashville.
we don't. They go quickly in Nashville when they get set up there. They go very quickly. Hey, let's go ahead and look at the upcoming other divisions. Kayla, do you want to take it away, Vanna White?
Yeah.
Let's go to Division 329, one of my favorite divisions where we see our most growth taking place. So we're looking at We need drivers out of Houston, DFW, San Antonio, and Laredo, Texas. Really good opportunity at anywhere between $1,200 to $1,800 a week, depending on experience level. You're going to run intrastate Texas, as well as Southern Oklahoma and Southwest Louisiana. A lot of good opportunities here with this. We probably could use about 20 to 25 more drivers on this. In particular, DFW and Houston seem to be the areas where that growth is most needed on this division. We continue to add customers to this division, and it keeps gaining steam. Right now, I will tell you that we have approximately 160 people on this division. We could get up to 180, 185 before reassessing. Positions are filling up quick. It tends to be our most popular division at this moment, though, so you're going to want to jump on it quick. Again, that's 1,200 to 1,800 depending on experience. If you're near that 6 months in year, you're probably close to the 1,250. If you have more than 2 years, you're going to be much closer to $1,800. Again, that's weekly home time. We maximize your miles, a whole lot of drop and hook, and a lot of direct customer freight on that. So be sure as you talk to Nimmer and all the other folks there for Rig on Wheels mention Division 329, they will know exactly what you are talking about. And Kayla, can we move on to Division 410? Division 410, actively looking for drivers out of the Nashville, Lexington, Kentucky, and Louisville, Kentucky markets. A lot of Midwest as well as Southeast freight. Never more than a day or two, a day and a half from the house. Direct customer freight, averaging 1650 a week, ends up coming out to about 85 to $90,000 a year. We have productivity bonuses involved with this, which I can tell you they're not hard to get. 75% of the people on this division get that productivity bonus on a monthly basis. Nighttime driving is common, so if you have trouble with nighttime driving, it's not for you. However, a lot of drivers prefer that nighttime driving because there's less traffic on the road in some of the more congested areas. That would make this account very desirable for you. A lot of routine customers, a lot of drop and hook. We don't touch any of our freight, and we have ongoing opportunities there. So, as an example, we talked about the account that we're doing out of Groveport, Ohio. Division 410 will often participate in the overflows from that account. So, there's plenty of freight to go around on this. So, again, this week, Division 410, if you live out of Nashville, Lexington, Kentucky, or Louisville, Kentucky. And we're going to do Division 329 out of DFW, Houston, Laredo, and San Antonio. As always, if you didn't see a division that covered the cities that you live in, we have a whole bunch of other opportunities. Off the top of my head, Jacksonville, St. Louis, Phoenix, Salt Lake City, Albuquerque, New Mexico, El Paso, and a number of others. On top of that, to find folks at Rig on Wheels, we are, I'd like to think, their best client, but they do have other clients. They have about 40 other clients. So if you live in Timbuktu or New York City or in Denver, Colorado, or someplace else, give the folks at Rig on Wheels a call at 281-968-3100. That's 281-968-3100. Or visit them at rigonwheels.com. They're going to look at what your needs are, your wants. They're even willing to have a conversation if other people are involved in the decision making process with you. Ideally, you'll become my coworker, but if your needs aren't fulfilled by MVT, chances are one of those other clients have something that's in your bucket if you are an experienced driver with a safe, stable work history.
Yeah, and then another thing, thanks, Pierce. And another thing, you're gonna fill out the application at 10th Street and Tele app, whether with us or on the website at rigonwheels.com, and it'll hyper populate your app, auto populate, not hyper, but auto populate your application. And let's say for some reason you're not able to right now take the position, we'll still have the history in there to be able to give you a call back, or let's say something changes and you give us a call back. We'll have your history in there, so take the conversation and immediately get you placed with MVT at a later date. So it just kind of works really quickly to get you going. But we are ready to go. I'm really excited about those two openings in Ohio and just growing that account and all the rest of them too. And I know
The
your favorite 329.
the folks here on Rig on Wheels podcast are the first ones to know. My recruiters internally don't even know yet. So
Oh,
act on it quickly. Do it quickly before we get a wave of people that want that job. This is the opportunity to jump on it. Those positions tend to go quick, and a home daily at 1,500 to 1,750 a week is hard to beat.
yeah, that's definitely hard to beat. There's definitely some good money being home every day. So,
Yep.
thank you so much for sharing that with us first. So that's exclusive. Bryson and I were talking about that exclusive word the last couple of weeks. So we like that word, exclusive. So let's go ahead and go to commercial. What I want to do is go to commercial where we're talking about driver appreciation, because I like the fact that MVT doesn't just do it in September, that we're partnered with a company that actually does it quarterly. Hey, Pearson doesn't even know it's just in September. He does. The only reason why he knows it is because of the Faces of the Road calendar. But MVT does it quarterly. So I want to say that's the only company that I know that does it that often. So, yeah, you've been around for a long time, Pearson. I mean, not on Earth, but in trucking.
Yeah, I can't think of one that does. I know our next one's coming up November 27th. We're doing it the day before Thanksgiving. We'll have a lot of people going back to their home bases. We will do it out of El Paso, Denver, Laredo, Hutchins, Texas, and Nashville. Um, the biggest part with why we do it 4 times a year is we don't think it should be a once a year thing. If you appreciate your drivers, it's not something that's 1 week out of 52. Two, it increases the likelihood that we will physically get to see all of our drivers, and we want to have a relationship with them. It's one thing to send a random email to somebody thanking them for what they do. It's different when the owner of the company can physically shake your hand and thank you for what you do.
If that special car giveaway is in Dallas, I would want to drive up there. That's got to be a scene. I would just be in so much awe. I'll probably be screaming like I'm the one winning the car. It'll be
Given
fun.
that I reside about 25 minutes from that terminal, I would hope that would be the case too. I don't know that you and I will figure that out early enough in advance, but it would make life easier for me.
Yeah, I'll be like, they'll be like, please send this crazy lady away. But Kayla, if you can please go to that commercial, and that'll be great. I just want to see all the food that's gonna be happening and everything. I'm like, this is just exciting.
Oh, they go all out on the food. I will tell you, the driver appreciation that we do, it's a lot of fun. We have some cool giveaways. There's obviously the car giveaway, but just it's a fun experience. A lot of the drivers will bring their family members with them. I know last one I went to, they had an inflatable rock climbing and a zip line, so it was interesting. Knock on wood, everybody was safe. But it's a fun experience, and it's a chance to talk with our coworkers on the road that we don't get to see every day, meet with them, learn about their experience, get their feedback, what they like, what they don't like. Um, a lot of our best ideas as an organization come from that day every quarter that we just, quite frankly, step away from the cubicle, step out of the truck, and just talk.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, we get. I mean, you could just hear Josue's enthusiasm when he talks about that and how everybody wears a special vest or whatever, so the drivers know them versus the drivers and all this type of stuff he talks about. So drivers to be able to come up to them and give feedback and talk about things. So
It forces the issue, like we've talked on this show a number of times. At too many carriers, there's silos that get set up. It's always drivers, employee. What's your driver number? What's your employee number? And you end up setting up these silos that it almost feels like two separate companies, and it's not. And so it's one of those things that forces the office employee, even if somebody doesn't come from a trucking background, they very quickly come to understand there's not a silo. We are one and the same. If you don't have that personality, if you feel like a driver is different than you probably are not going to do very well at MVT.
yeah, and something else he was saying, it was just really cool to get his perspective about a lot of things. But he was saying that how the drivers will call him and just they might have a question or whatever, after they've been working for a while, and they'll be like, they'll ask him like, what up, bro? How's work? Or things like that, because now they realize that they're coworkers now, and he'll say that that is really good. It takes him, makes him feel good. Is a good feeling for him
Yeah, absolutely.
that the driver understands that they are one of the same now.
Well, and I'll say for the recruiters, probably one of the recruiters' favorite parts of the driver appreciation, we like bumping into drivers that we physically have hired. We're really big on accountability. I'm not trying to sell you or trick you into a job. Everything that we say that we're going to provide, we put in writing. So once you come on board, we don't have a lot of awkward scenarios of my recruiter lied to me.
Mm-hmm.
So the recruiters and drivers generally seek each other out at those driver appreciation events. I don't know how many drivers come up to me. Have you seen Robert? Have you seen Josue? Have you seen Jose Luis or Tyler? Very, very common. Same thing on the recruiters end. I'll get, have you seen this? Have you seen this? And a lot of times those drivers that week before that will kind of connect with their recruiter because it's a chance to, go back over the job. Hey, did what you get talked into, is it the job you expected? 9 times out of 10 it is. It's very rewarding for the recruiter to get the positive reinforcement, which tends to make them do their job better.
I like that. It was very good to listen to him and his perspective on everything from marketing. It was just the things that he was bringing up. It wasn't even things that I would think about, that an internal recruiter would think about, but he was, because of how his drivers were talking to him and what the drivers were saying. So it was things that he had to think about.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, I like that. Yeah, I like that. I like that. So you would
And
agree.
let's touch a little bit about what also takes place there. We do the car giveaway. So
Mm-hmm.
every quarter we give away a car. Literally, we are obsessive compulsive about fuel economy because
Yes.
at the end of the day, that's what can separate MVT from a lot of carriers in terms of us being profitable versus not profitable. We aren't going to cheat drivers on pay, and so the big thing right there is we want to reward the drivers that get the best fuel economy. The drivers are able to see where they stand versus their peers. They can see it both in terms of all the terminal locations on a weekly basis as well as in their in-cab communication of where they are on their fuel economy. If you are assigned a truck, you are having your fuel economy monitored. At the end of the quarter, whoever has the best fuel economy for a quarter generally gets that brand new car. Royal Jones shows up. If you see Royal at the driver appreciation, hey, someone's going to be getting a car. Normally, the driver does not know about it in advance. We make sure the driver is going to be there because it'd be awkward if they weren't. And we give a brand new car to have the who has the best fuel economy on the fleet. Generally, right now, that best fuel economy is averaging about 12.4, 12.5 miles a gallon. Sometimes it's a driver that's been with us for 20 years. Sometimes it's a driver that's been with us for 9 months in the industry and just got their feet wet and they've taken it seriously about fuel economy. We always give that car away. And then the fun one in November that we're doing, the end of year one, we generally are able to have an idea of who's leading the pack on the yearly reward in terms of that driver appreciation. So we start going down that pathway as well. That gets $25,000. So it's a lot of fun, had by all, and trust me, drivers get bragging rights, fleet managers get bragging rights, recruiters get bragging rights when it's one of their drivers that they hired that got that MPG bonus.
I bet. Could you imagine one of your drivers is the one that actually gets that? So talk about that leaderboard where
Yeah,
they're able to come in and see that.
absolutely. As of this morning, we have 1,846 drivers. And each of those people have a ranking based off of where their current fuel economy is. And it's not respective of division, it's not respective of time with the company. If you're an active driver, you are on that list and you can see where you rank on this. And the nice thing I tell every driver is if you're in the bottom half, it just tells you we got some work to do. Let's get together. Let's have driver services, your fleet manager, and a few other people work with you on how are we going to improve your MPG bonus. I've seen a lot of drivers that are in the bottom half on that MPG, and you go and visit 6 months later and they're in the top 10% because they got serious about it because driver behavior is the number one thing that will influence fuel economy over anything else, bar none. I could point to about 25 different things that we do to get that best fuel economy, but driver behavior by far makes up half the difference right off the bat. At that point, you're able to see where you are. So once you get into, as an example, we're in the third quarter or fourth quarter at this moment, you can see, hey, Camille, your driver listing is number 84. You're 84th place of all the MPGs. So plenty of weeks left. You're saying, I'm in the hunt here. I'm going to push it a little bit. Let's maybe take a few more, two or three more fewer breaks over the week instead of coming on and off the road. Let's look at am I using the cruise control correctly? Work with driver services. Did I get my truck washed when I needed to? Is there anything outstanding maintenance wise that I need to get with my fleet manager to schedule me at Penske to get it fixed? There's a number of actions that we can take that will maximize that fuel economy. And so, generally speaking, I would say that if you're about 2 weeks left in the quarter and you're somewhere in that top 25, you know that you're in the money. You're starting to get close there that you want to show up at driver appreciation because you know there's a chance.
I know one thing, just talking to you about all of this makes me think of everything. I know that, I got a smaller SUV, but it makes me think of everything that I can do to conserve gas the same way because it's still an automobile. And I'm like, oh, okay, all the way down to washing it,
Yep.
you
The
know.
the challenge the challenge in the world of trucking is, but we can apply the same stuff to our personal life. And one of the things I will tell anybody is if you're at a carrier and they offer Smith training.
Mm,
Smith training deals with defensive driving, but you also reap benefits from an MPG standpoint. It's kind of one of the benefits. It's really to avoid that collision with the four wheelers on the road. But one of the side effects is you also get much better MPG. I will tell you that if you are not one of the professional drivers at a carrier, but you can take that Smith training, you can also save money on your insurance because insurance will give you credit for taking that training. Generally means about 10 to 15% off of your monthly insurance premium. So it's something to keep in mind on that end. And you'll find that the drivers that tend to get the best MPG bonus on our fleet, we've done some research, tend to get pretty good fuel economy on their personal vehicles too.
mm, yeah.
We're all
That's,
creatures of habit.
so with saying that, guys, now that we know how to get the best fuel economy with the 18 wheeler and our four wheeler. But I no, but literally, when we talk about both of them, I immediately think of my Acura. Immediately, I'm like, okay, how can I do this? Speeding is not an issue for me, so we don't have to worry about that. Yeah, you burn a lot of diesel. I do not when it comes to that, but they're washing the vehicle. But I did get my SUV washed yesterday. You
Look at you. You're
look at
competing. When we create the car equivalent to this thing, you'll be right in the leaderboard.
yes, I'll be right there. But we have come to the bottom of the top of the hour, something along that line, and we just want you to be safe out there on the road. I don't know if we have any tropical storms coming. I hope not. Florida needs to just stay dry.
Yeah, Florida's been beat up, and I know that insurance premiums are just hitting people hard there as far as insurance goes.
Yes.
Something tells me the growth in Florida probably slows down a little bit.
Yeah, that's just a lot. Um, And so let's do this, guys. We want to see you back Tuesday. It's mandatory at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. We want to see you guys back. And that's all, folks. You got anything else, Pearson?
Take care of yourself and each other, and be safe and productive on the road, and make as much money as possible. Close out 2024. Now is the time to be running your wheels off.
That is an absolute fact. But take care, everybody. Bye bye.